back to another episode on the Tetragrammaton channel. And for you guys that don't know what the Tetragrammaton is, it's the 4-letter Hebrew name of God, Yahweh. Pretty cool stuff, actually. Alright, so if you're new to the channel, which probably a lot of you guys are, welcome. I hope you guys like the content. Leave a comment, whatever. I try to cover a lot of different topics here. Anyways, but today, in this episode, I wanted to cover something kind of interesting. It's about the process of transformation and how it's oftentimes very difficult, and how oftentimes you have to face something difficult to make this process more potent and to make the end result, how can you say, of better yield. So this was taught to me by, I don't really remember actually, but it was something that I found online a few years ago. And it applied actually to the spiritual process of finding your spiritual path, your true path, and how it changes your life and how it changes your personality oftentimes and can make you a better person. But oftentimes the process can be very difficult also. It can lead to personal frustrations, social problems, and not the least, a lot of friction from the spiritual realm that doesn't want people to be more in touch with truth and righteousness, and especially if you then truly find the true path, which is into the Christian way. So I'll explain kind of like a really nice analogy, so if any of you guys are familiar with like metalworking, imagine that there's like a blacksmith, and the blacksmith has a billet of raw steel that he puts inside the forge and heats it up until it's nice and soft again. And then he takes that billet, he folds it up, and then he hammers it. And as he's hammering, if you guys have ever watched on TV or YouTube, sparks fly out of the billet of metal. Those sparks, those are actually impurities. That's called slag. So as he's hammering, the slag comes out, and slowly that metal cools down again and becomes hard. So then you need to put it back in the forge and heat it up again so it's nice and moldable. And then back to the hammering out the slag process. Get all the impurities out. And then it's back in the forge, and then you take the metal out, and then you start working it to make it into something useful, something more valuable than it was before. And maybe it's like a new piece of jewelry or a new tool or a sword or something like that. If you think about ancient times, maybe even weapons, right? Now, that entire process is a very good symbolic analog to, for example, the process that spiritual engagement can take you through. I feel like the older you are, when you re-engage with your spirituality or find it for the first time, it'll be more understandable how this process can be difficult. When you're a child, life is a little bit more happy-go-lucky, and it's not the same type of burden. When you're an adult, you have a family, they're going to ask you, what are you doing? Are you falling into some kind of new mania? What's going on? And there's all these frictions that arise, and the spirits that don't want to see you progress are more active, They're just going to be so much more in your face, and you might start becoming aware of those things. So what happens is that now your spirit, right, you've engaged in the process of putting your spirit into the forge to make it malleable steel again. You're kind of like from where you started. What if your life is like a complete mess? Okay, then you're like a really busted up piece of billet metal, low quality. And if you pretty much got your stuff in order, but let's say it's you got a good life, you're taking care of the family and everything, and now you're engaging with some new level, right? Then you're kind of refining. You're going from, say, straight up iron to like a stainless steel, like the age of steel. You're adding new materials into the mix, right? You're becoming a strong alloy. However you want to sort of symbolically reference this. But the point is that the process of trial will heat you up. And you become formable. And you become very formable. Actually, in this time, you can actually become... The risk is that you become very formable, but you end up solidifying halfway through the process, or you become worked wrongly, right? And you will know when this happens. You might be so jarred by the process that you just think... You walk away from it entirely and never look back, and you might become very cynical also, right? That happens. Or you might feel a form of defeat. You might feel that you can't do it, and then you have a stronger aversion to walking your spiritual path. But anyway, so you become heated, right? And then it's up to you, your path. You have to pray, you have to focus your mind, you have to really double down to see yourself through that process. And then when it's all said and done and you're formed real nice, then the quenching process of solidifying that new form takes stage. And then you're kind of like a new tool, a new being, a new person, born again. And now the sort of trying process might be phased over, where you can just you can see it through without too much effort, because you're solidified in this new form and it's really upgraded, right?